Hey folks, here for another prophecy update. It is June 7th of 2023, the wonderful day of all the smoke from the Canadian wildfires coming down and engulfing New York City, amongst other areas. Behind me, you can actually see a picture that was taken today of New York City. So that's pretty interesting. I read somewhere we had the worst air quality of any city in the world today. It's like just today. Anyway, here we are in New York City, but that's not why I'm here. Although this is possibly could have been started by aliens. Maybe. That's kind of our show today. I think they're trying to destroy our whole way of life for obvious reasons. Bible prophecy says, be the worst time ever that ever was or ever shall be, and it's coming up and we're approaching it. And we can see the birth pangs as described in Matthew 24 and other verses. But today I just want to specifically speak about they are preparing for alien disclosure. And you can see my good friend L.A. Marzulli, he talks about this a lot. So just go to L.A. Marzulli on YouTube and look up his videos. He's been doing this for years. I just wanted to touch on it real quick today. And there's always verses that people use that are UFOs and all that other stuff. I think a couple are, but I think they overuse it. There's a couple that really aren't. So I just wanted to hit on them. Let's jump over just a couple verses. Not going to take all your time today. So Ezekiel chapter 1 is very interesting. I actually named the daughter because of this chapter, and she was born in the middle of a storm. So that's interesting. And you can figure it out when you read it. So, okay, let's start right in the beginning, because that's a good place to start. It came to pass in the 30th year, the 4th month, and the 5th day of the month, that I was among the captives in the river of Chabar, that the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. So here's Ezekiel, and he sees his vision of God. Okay, and then verse 4 says, behold, a whirlwind came out of the north. A lot of people think this is like, oh, the whirlwind, that's a UFO. But it's literally here, whirlwind, it's a combination of two words, spirit and hurricane. So it's kind of a spirit hurricane came out of the north, and a great cloud and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof the color of amber, and out of the midst of the fire. So when it talks about fire too, sometimes it's fire, but if you realize if fire even back then was like lightning, different things like that, and I would suspect if they're seeing heavenly things, it could even be like a plasma type of a fire. If you read the book of Enoch, there's all sorts of descriptions of when he was in the throne, and it was like walls of fire, and I'm thinking, fire, or is it like a plasma, like we see the space age stuff today, and it's a plasma wall, and it's pretty cool. That would be cool if that's what heaven looked like. We shall see shortly. All right, but honestly, later on, it does talk about the wheel and the wheels within a wheel. I think that is more of UFO-ish or UAP, but it's not unexplainable. I mean, God, he's got a throne. Does he really need to sit? Does he need to sit? No, he likes to sit because he sits in judgment on the throne, and there's a lot of spiritual implications. Well, does he need a car? Not necessarily, but why not get around in his nice chariot? Okay, and his wheel within a wheel, and his descriptions of it. But you can go read over there. I think that would be one of the ones that, if we saw that, would definitely be a UFO or a UAP. They're calling it now because UFOs have been ridiculed. Unidentified or unexplained aerial phenomena. UFOs. So, and it's an interesting chapter. You should read that. And then we jump on over and we see Elijah, or Eliyahu, and Elishayahu. Elisha and Elijah. In English, it's hard to tell the difference between the two. But in the Hebrew, if you do the Yah, Elijah, and Elisha, it's easier to tell the difference. Here, where we are. And it came to pass in 2 Kings 2:11. This one's pretty cool too. I think this one is more of a UAP / UFO. And it came to pass as they still went on. So here's Elisha's like, man, this guy's cool. Can I please have your anointing? And Elijah is saying, well, if you watch me go up, I'll drop the mantle and you can have it. So he's like, all right, you're not leaving my side. And so here they are, they're walking, and they talked, and behold, there appeared a chariot of fire. 2 Kings 2:11, a chariot of fire. So that word is recheb, and basically it's a masculine noun, and it means chariot. It also refers to a group of chariots, but it can refer to a single chariot. So it's a vehicle of sorts. So that's what's really cool. This is a vehicle, and this also is made of fire. So is that fire? Is that just because it's hot, or is that plasma as well? The fourth state of matter. So that's interesting. Is it made of lightning? We just translate it as fire because the horses were made of fire as well. So are they plasma horses? Are they fire horses? Are they lightning horses? Pretty cool. But nonetheless, they are horses, which brings us to Zechariah. This is cool. And Zechariah, we're going to start in chapter 5. And let me see here. And we'll just go right to 1. So 5 verse 1. I turned to lift up my eyes and looked, to behold a flying roll. Okay. Now, there are some teachers out there that say, oh, these flying rolls, they represent torpedoes, and there's the ephod with the lead and the woman in it. It's not really what it says. Maybe metaphorically you can get that, but this is literally the word roll here is Megillah, like Megillah gorilla, and it's like a book. So it's literally a book, but by the implication, it's a writing. So you know how we have the books of judgment, and you open the book of life, and then you'll be blotted out of the book of life, and then there's the open the books. Everything's written in a book. That goes right back to our contract teaching. Everything is written down. Well, they got to write it somewhere, so they write it in a scroll. This says roll here. So they write it in a scroll, and that's where everything's written down because it's all contract terms. Let's get back to that. And then now this flying roll is, if you look at the word flying, it has another meaning as well. And let me see here. PC Study Bible takes a minute to get there. Hang on a second. Sometimes it gets hooked up. Oof. That's what it says. Oof. A flying roll. It's a primitive root to cover with wings or obscurity. So it's a flying roll, but the metaphor is implying that this is a judgment book and it's covered right now. You can't see it. It's covered and it's obscure. But when it finally flies over later on, you're going to see it. So he actually describes that. And so he turned and he sees an angel standing there talking with him. He says, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll, and the length is 20 cubits, and the breadth is 10 cubits. He said to me, this is the curse that goes forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off, as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side. Okay, so the word swear here, hang on. Okay. Yeah, Shaba oof. We got all these words coming out. Primitive root, to be complete. Okay. To seven oneself, to swear, as if by repeating declarations 7 times. So these people that steal and swear an oath, and so they're swearing. Clearly, it's implied that it's not a good oath or not a good swearing. So this is a judgment, and it's obscure right now, but it's going to fly over the earth. And this curse that's written, this contract curse is written on this roll, and it's going to be going over the whole earth. And this is the end of days here, or the end of this age anyway. It will bring forth, saith the Lord of hosts, it shall enter the house of the thief, and in the house of him that swears falsely by my name, and shall remain in the midst of the house, and consume it with timber thereof and the stones thereof. So this again has implications of the prophetic implications, the end of the age, but also it speaks to the contracts that if you're a thief, this is going to stay in your house. It says right there, this curse, this book. So in the contract teaching, this book is going to fly into your house and it's going to remain there. He will visit the iniquities of the fathers, remember, unto the third and the fourth generation, and it will consume it. It will literally consume up the house. So that could be a UFO too, but it looks more to me like it's a book. All right, and it's covered by its wings, so it's not necessarily flying, but it's covered with obscurity, a book of curses, because you're a thief and a liar, because you swear falsely. So the global chariot search in Enoch, it talks about chariots, but it's more for the sun, and it's more of a metaphor to describe how the sun moves. It's like moving in its poem. And then we also talked about 2 Kings 2:11. So you will see different things that do kind of refer to that, and then different things that really aren't. I think they're more of the curse and more of the contract teaching. But I do know this, that if we go back and look at the Nephilim, they wanted everyone to think they were gods, okay, and that they came from somewhere else and they were above everybody. Look at the Greeks and what they do. They were the mighty men of old, men of renown, and they all go back. The Titans, basically the Satans is what it really means, the adversaries. So they all wanted to pretend they were superior beings from other places and basically usurp the authority that humans had, because that's what they do. They can't get it any other way, and they know they're doomed to hell, so they're trying to steal it back. And that reminds me, they're not going to stop, because they know they're doomed to hell, so they have to do everything they possibly can until the very second that they're thrown into the pit and locked up. So don't be surprised if Satan and his minions keep trying to come after you, but learn your authority. Learn your authority that Christ has given you. Learn your authority in the throne room of heaven. The temple veil was torn in two so we can access the throne. And ask God for a verdict on these things. No weapon formed against me shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against me in judgment I shall condemn. So there's a lot of things that go along with that. Let's follow up with the chariots in Zechariah, and let's go to chapter 6, because now we're getting into more chariots. And I turned, in verse 1, and lifted up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, there came 4 chariots out from between 2 mountains, and the mountains were of brass. That's interesting. A lot of symbolism there. Mountains represent like kingdoms. Brass represents judgment, like the brazen altar, brass altar represents a judgment. So there's the 4 chariots, and in the first chariot were red horses. Sound familiar? We're going into Genesis. Second chariot were black horses. Third chariot, white horses. And the fourth chariot, grizzled and bay horses. This mirrors Revelation chapter 6, 5 or 6. Yeah, the horses, the horsemen of the apocalypse. This mirrors it exactly. Okay, now these are on chariots. So these horsemen are similar here. So came 4 chariots. Well, who's driving them? Okay, so the 4 horsemen could also be, similar to that. Maybe they were driving chariots as well. This is just more of the picture, but they were still driving horses, and both of them will apply to that. So that's a whole big study there, and the color of the horses and what they represent. But again, they're chariots from out 2 mountains. So again, you can look at this And in one sense, you can see the unexplained aerial phenomena, which the demons and the fallen angels would try and have you believe that they're aliens from another planet, when in fact they're just spirits that are riding out from here. They can't go into the universe and fly around and do stuff from other planets, so that's all a lie. Here's why the lie. They want you to believe they're from other planets for exactly the reason that everyone says we should worship them now. Even the Pope is like, oh, if they're from other planets, maybe they're unadulterated by sin and we should listen to them instead because they're probably closer to God. Nonsense like that. And the atheists will say, oh, we were seeded here from other planets and they're just coming back to help us. All sorts of different things. All of these things to have an excuse, number one, because they're trying to destroy the world. So now, I was just talking with Trey Smith today, and he's like, yeah, well, everything's going on and going on, so what do? Oh, look, aliens. Now it completely distracts all of your attention from the nefarious things they're doing, like the background behind me, and pointing over to aliens to get our thoughts and minds in another direction and worry about them instead. Just like I posted today, sniper monkeys, because what else is next? Murder hornets and sniper monkeys, and with the things they come up with. Well, as LA says, it's probably super close to full disclosure, as they say. I got a couple of sites up here. This one is cbc.ca. Canada attends its first-of-a-kind UFO briefing at the Pentagon, and this was just today. Amid extraordinary new claims, U.S. office delivers its first briefing to allied nations. Okay, so they're talking about all that, and then the Canadian government has confirmed its participation in first-of-its-kind international meeting on unidentified flying objects hosted at the United States military headquarters. So they're hosting a UFO conference at the Pentagon. Come on, people. They're setting us up. Remember what happened just before the COVID? They had a conference on, what would happen if the entire world had a pandemic? What would we do? And then surprise, surprise, we have a pandemic. So this being another one out today in the Intelligencer, and there's a lot of them. Just Google UFO disclosure, and look in the last day. Ex-intelligence officer says government is hiding alien technology from Congress. So they're leaking this one out. They have, it says here, they have intact and partially intact alien vehicles. Maybe they're those chariots of fire. Who knows? Or the wheel within a wheel. I don't know. But it's reasonable to say if the regular angels have a vehicle, then the fallen angels probably have a similar type of vehicle because they were once angels. And maybe they're using it for nefarious purposes. That's my guess, and I think I'm right. So that's it for the prophecy update for today. Aliens, look! We're not trying to destroy the world. It's those aliens. And it's a perfect cover for when the rapture happens. Millions of people missing. The narrative will go like this, that aliens came to re-educate them, or they took them. Now the whole world has to come together. And now the whole world has to come together under one leader, one super-duper leader who's going to help us, the earth, and all the nations come together so we can fight off these big bad aliens. Yep, they'll be deceived so bad that they'll believe the lie. And I believe that is the lie that he's talking about. That the Nephilim, and it all just comes right back around, as in the days of Noah. They're going to pretend they're gods, and they're going to pretend that they created this place. And then people are going to worship them and wind up in a lake of fire. So if you're one of those, please change your mind. Jesus made a new blood contract for you, so you don't have to pay your sins in that contract. Please receive the Lord and have the blood of Yeshua speak on your behalf when you come before the throne of heaven on Judgment Day. That's it for this time. Lord willing, if we're still here, we'll see you next time. You guys have a great day. Bye.